County. My name is Kelsey Stetler, and I'm here today with Mike Cullen, who's running for Storey County Sheriff. He invited us into his home today to kind of review some questions that people have been asking frequently at some of his meet and greets. So we're here today with Mike Cullen, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So Mike Cullen, thanks for having us today. I'm going to have you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, history, and law enforcement.
It's great. Thanks, Kelsey.
Uh-huh.
Well, I grew up out in Douglas County, in Minden.
Okay.
Graduated from high school in 1984 down there, and started my law enforcement career in 1990 at the Nevada State Prison. I started with the reserve program at Carson City Sheriff's Office in 1992, and then was hired on full-time in 1994. One of my first job assignments at Carson City was community policing officer, and actually had a foot beat downtown where we walked up and down the neighborhood and the businesses and met everybody and came up with policing plans and tried to meet their needs, find out what the specifics were that the problems were downtown, and it was our first step in Carson City with that community policing program, and it worked out really well.
That's really cool.
Back then I made relationships with a lot of the business owners that I carried through my entire career, 31 plus years actually.
Wow.
And it worked out really well.
That's really cool.
I worked in that program for a little bit. I got hired onto patrol there, or moved into the patrol position, and right away actually I became a training officer. Did patrol up until about 1998-ish and went into detectives. Worked in detectives for about 4 years, and then got promoted to sergeant and went out to patrol. In that position, I did everything from patrol sergeant to tactics to motors and traffic, and stayed in that area or in that whole thing till about 2013-14.
Wow.
2017-16, I went to the administrative sergeant position there in Carson City, and I started working on grants, and I had some units directly under me, the training unit, the traffic unit, and such, and started these grants, and it was really fantastic. I worked with the grants for many years, but I was never in charge of that program. And then I found avenues for more funding and more grant money to come in. We started getting equipment, we started getting all kinds of things there in Carson, and it was a real experience. I really enjoyed it. Recently, I retired from Carson City after 31 years, and my focus has been to bring all that experience and knowledge up here to Storey County. And I caught myself writing grants and wanting to put the Storey County title on them instead of Carson City. So yeah, and my wife and I live here in Storey County in Virginia City, and she owns and operates her own business. We love it here. We've been coming here for many years. She, ever since she was 19 years old, she wanted to be here. And to make a dream come true was to move here for her and with her. And it's something I always wanted to do too. My parents would bring me up here as a little kid, and I'd put on my cowboy hat and my two guns and walk up and down the boardwalk. I remember doing that, and it was fantastic. We've got a lot of friends and family here in the county, and it's kind of a dream come true for both of us. We have access right to the great state of Nevada out our back door, and I couldn't think of a better place to live.
Wow. Very cool. Sounds like you have a lot of experience to bring to the area for sure, and you guys fit in great up here. I can see, you guys are very happy up here. So thanks for having us today.
Great.
I do have a couple of questions
Sure.
that have been asked most frequently at some of these meet and greets. So we jotted them down. We're just going to kind of touch base on them. That way, anybody who hasn't been able to come to any of these can kind of get an idea of what your answers would be.
Perfect.
So first, we're going to stard off with, as sheriff, what can you bring to the deputies and other county departments?
Well, the first thing I want to bring to the county, countywide, is a better working relationship with the other departments. I've met with some of the other department people here in the county, just casually, nothing official or anything, obviously. But we've talked about it a lot, and I think I can bring a lot more communication and a lot better working environment. If I can help another department do something to better them and they can help me, that's going to be the best for everybody altogether. Training is a big thing. I'm big into that, and cross training. If we can train with, say, the fire department as first responders, and get our deputies involved with the fire department and the fire department involved with us, I think it just makes it better overall for a response to incidents or calls for service. It could be something simple or it could be something major, but if we work together better, that's going to benefit everybody. It doesn't matter what the department is. If there's something I could do as the sheriff here, then I'll do it for them. I want to make that arrangement much better than what
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different parts that go into a community.
Oh, yeah.
You might as well all be holding hands and doing it together, huh?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you. What can the citizens expect when you're elected sheriff?
Well, they're going to see a lot more community involvement from the deputies. There's a lot of, and I like to talk about the deputies because I do believe in them up here. They work hard and they've got a hard job. They've got a lot of area to cover. But I would like to see more interaction. You know, I want them to be able to get out and meet the people that they work with or the areas they work. You know, the north end of the county is a good example of getting out and knowing the folks in your area. I talked about this the other night, actually. We have 5 unique areas here in Storey County that require 5 different types of techniques of policing. And getting deputies involved with the community is a huge thing. I will start I will enhance our volunteer programs or get those things rolling a little bit better, I hope, with community involvement. You know, we're going to start citizen academies. We're going to build on our cadet program here, create our cadet program, build on that. Reserve deputies, get our reserve program built up. The senior volunteers are fantastic. I've worked with our senior volunteers in Carson for many years, and that's an excellent program. You know, it's called the CERT team up here, and I know they're dedicated and they work hard, and I just want to build on that. I think with the citizen academies, getting out there and interacting with the folks, and it may be something where, you know, we talk about law enforcement and they get involved, or maybe we talk about law enforcement and it's just information for them. You know, either way it works out
Or
good
for you,
everybody.
invitation
Sure.
for you.
Yeah, it goes
maybe
both ways.
things that you can work on and change.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you're thinking about the 5 different parts of the county, because obviously most people think Storey County, Virginia City. They're the ones that need police. They're the ones with the big, you know, events and all that stuff going on. So it's really nice to know that you do recognize the different parts of the county and that there's different needs for each part of them. Some of them of which don't want to be bothered with things. Other ones maybe need a little bit more help than people realize. But still keeping Virginia City the way that it is while having, you know, the police involved to keep it safe and be able to function as it is. So that's really cool.
You know, bringing in grant funding is a big deal. You know, there's all kinds of state and federal grants available for folks, for counties like ours here, and that funding is available all the time. You know, it buys cameras and it buys evidence equipment and investigative tools and things that we could really use where we wouldn't have to burden the taxpayers with these things. And we're able to update our equipment and training. You know, there's nationwide in law enforcement, there's training that's available that is free. There's no cost.
Yeah.
You just have to show up. And these are things that I think I can bring to the county is my experience with getting our folks down in Carson, just like that, getting them trained.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable. You know, the deputies enjoy it. They are excited to come to work. They're looking for new training, new opportunities, and it's one of the fun things about law enforcement is everybody finds their area that they really enjoy. Some folks like financial crimes investigation. Some folks like working with the community and kids. You know, some folks like our mental health outreach program in Carson. We have a couple of deputies involved down there in Carson that are just fantastic, and it's something they found that they really enjoyed. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing for Storey County. I think, you know, once we get out and work with the folks that are already employed and hopefully bring in some new ones and build our program, we're going to find that people, they find a little area that they enjoy, and then let them work in those spots, and it just benefits everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, people tend to do a lot better if they're passionate about something. So if you can get them in that area, then they do want to take that additional training and grow and kind of make what they can out of it. So that's really cool. Awesome. Sounds like a great plan, Mike. I've heard that you're going to terminate all the deputies and bring in the SWAT teams. Is this something that you're at all planning in this area?
So I ran for sheriff 4 years ago, and my opponents at the time, I guess that's where it came from. You know, a lot of people like to, you know, start a rumor mill, and it's absolutely not true. There's no truth to any of that. First off, that would be a dumb move on anybody's part, is to come in and get rid of people. I honestly believe, and we talked about the deputies a minute ago, I think the deputies and the staff here in Storey County, they really know the needs and you know, what needs to be changed, and they have ideas already in place that maybe they're not being addressed. And I know as an employee at other places and over my lifetime, it seems like we always had the ideas on, well, we should do this or change that or do something. And it could be anything from parking out in front of the building to actual policing and policy changes and things. And I think the deputies are the best resource to pull from when it comes to things
Absolutely.
like that. So there's absolutely no truth to that.
Okay.
And if anything, I retention and getting more deputies here employed, getting folks to come up here and work and making it a fun place for employees. That's my plan. I think with the community development too, and working with different groups here in the county, getting involved with the community is going to be that little moral boost to everybody, and we're going to just be more involved with the deputies in the community. They'll they'll like it, and it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, there's no truth to any of that stuff.
Okay.
And just to touch on the other note with the SWAT teams, I thought that was kind of funny. Years ago, I talked to people about being on the SWAT team in Carson City, and I have been. I was on there for 19 years,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of experience in the leadership and the tactical end of it. Worked with a lot of great guys, and we did a lot of good things for Carson City with that unit. However, there is no need for that unit here in Carson, up in Virginia City, and I would never bring a SWAT team up here to so-called invade Virginia City, like I've been told. That people have said. If anything, bringing or getting the grant funding and bringing equipment and training to the deputies, so that they could handle a bad situation if it came up. That would be the way to go, and building relationships with other jurisdictions in our area, Carson, Washoe County, Reno PD, Lyon County, NHP. Building those relationships is the best way to get help. If you have a problem and you call up, then they come up and help, and vice versa. It goes both ways. So bringing a SWAT team to Virginia City is just ridiculous. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's not even
good to know. I think a lot of people are wondering. I think a lot of people are wondering about that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the training and stuff is great for just everyday officers, just to be prepared, just to have that confidence and just know that they can deal with the situation if need be.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need a team for it, right?
No.
And with Storey County being so spread out, you're right. You may need to call in other resources from other places, especially during these big events in Virginia City. When you need all hands on deck, so to speak. With such a small department and such a large area to cover, it's good to have those relationships. And even if you just have a single officer out there, if they're well trained and maybe learn some of those techniques from your SWAT years and all that stuff, it could benefit them and everybody else.
Some of the best techniques are the ability to speak to people.
Absolutely.
And if you can speak to people, you can get a lot of cooperation.
For sure.
And it could be in a bad situation or something good. Maybe you say the right thing at the right time and you get some information, or you gain some cooperation, like you said, and it helps. And just learning to speak to people is a big deal. And I think that goes hand in hand with working with the community, getting the volunteer units involved, starting to have a reserve program up here, and you have some of these units to draw from when we have big events. So we wouldn't necessarily have to bring in other agencies. We would have our own groups of people that we could bring in. There's a lot of groups up here that want to be involved.
Yeah.
And I've been approached by many people, and they're just waiting for this election to get over with so they can jump in.
Jump on board.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Awesome. Sounds great, Mike. What's your stance on gun control?
I feel that you should sight them in real well, actually.
Sounds good. Good advice.
No, I think as far as gun control goes, I've been asked this question before. And I think everybody should own a gun, and they should know how to use them. It's in the Constitution, and we have the right to own firearms, and that's the bottom line. Now, there's laws in place that prohibit certain persons, and they're already on the books. And keeping those laws in mind, I'm fine with that. At the federal level, they talk about implementing new laws all the time, and it's ridiculous. I think that it's our right as American citizens, and the question came up the other day regarding red flag laws, and I'm not for red flag laws. I'm for enforcing the laws that we currently have.
Perfect. Good. I like it. All right. So you kind of spoke about the mental health programs that you've already talked about. How would that benefit this county in general?
So on a personal level, I've seen folks here in the county that they probably could use some help. Some way or the other. And I know there are community programs here because I've talked to some of the people involved in those programs, but those programs don't interact with the sheriff's office. And I think that interaction, or getting the sheriff's office involved in, for instance, the mental health outreach, is going to be huge for the county. I think, sadly, some folks, they self-medicate with alcohol and drugs, and it's the way it spirals down, and it's never a good outcome. You know, I guess we all have, we've all seen somebody in our lives that they could have used a little help at some point. And if you think back, maybe you think of somebody that may have passed away or something bad happened. At some point in their life, somebody could have interjected or stepped in, and it would have fixed the problem. That's where I want to come in. I want the deputies to be involved with our community outreach programs and create and strengthen the ones we have, and really get involved. And if it just is a matter of driving somebody to the doctor or visiting sometimes, maybe it's just someone they need to talk to, that's perfectly okay. And I think the more people we get involved with this stuff, the volunteers, the community outreach, it's just going to better our community, make it a better place for everybody. You know, sometimes folks, maybe they don't see the neighbor for a while, and they give us a call, we go knock on the door, and we do find out, well, you know, they're depressed, they're upset, they've had a problem in their life, and it's something we can step in and help. Maybe they need a ride to the store, maybe they just, you know, maybe there's something in their life that if they just had somebody to talk to, would be a way to fix it. So I definitely plan on working with our current programs and doing whatever I can do to build and strengthen it.
That's cool. That's awesome. Because I think a lot of people in that situation too, they look at law enforcement as something that would be scary. You know, I'm self-medicating. I'm high. I don't, you know, want to reach out to the police officers. They're going to throw me in jail, and you know, this is just going to be a continuing cycle. So I think it would be really good for you to make that relationship with them, and then know that it's a safe place. You know, that law enforcement is actually on their side and wants them to get help and wants them to be a functioning member of the community again. So I think that's really cool. It would make them feel really comfortable.
Great.
So, awesome.
Good question.
All right. So what about what plans do you have concerning the motorcycles, ATVs, and off-road vehicles that are driving fast and leaving the Highlands and in town?
So, well, this is actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I'm an avid off-roader.
Yes.
I race, I ride. My daughters and I we raced many years. They ride dirt bikes. You know, Michelle, she used to ride. It's a big deal with me. I really enjoy the outdoors. You know, we get out all the time, and it's fun and it's exciting. I do have some pet peeves. I have pet peeves when it comes to litter and abuse of our lands, our public lands. So to be involved with that, I had the ability in Carson in 2013 to get a couple of dirt bikes, and we would go out, and we had a lot of fun doing it, but we'd go out into the mountains and we'd meet up with people here and there and just talk, and it was just a discussion, an education, you know, going both directions with the cops and with the users out there, and it worked out good, and we developed some relationships. So in about 2020, I was looking at some off-highway vehicle grants and fundings from the state, which is all funds that are generated from OHV users. It's not taxpayer dollars. Okay. So all these funds come in from the users, and it's to make the community a better place, you know, out there. They do trail maintenance, they do all kinds of things. Law enforcement is able to get a certain amount of money to get out there and educate folks. And so I took advantage of that. And I got some grants for Carson. We developed a little bit better program with off-road vehicles and training for the officers. It's been very beneficial. So I want to bring, I want to bring that to Storey County. And meeting with some of the folks up in the Highlands, they have a big issue with off-road users, you know, crossing their private property and using their areas. And not so much the use of the areas, that doesn't really bother everybody so much, but the abuse. When they leave their trash and garbage behind, or they're speeding in front of their houses. And these are things that we can address, and I firmly believe that education is the key here. I spoke to some groups about this, and my job as sheriff would be to go to these clubs and these events and speak to them and let them know, hey, you know, we got the whole state of Nevada. We want you to come to Virginia City and use it, but we want you to be respectful. And I have plans to create certain routes, you know, that folks can legally drive and ride on. And that's my plan. I plan on enforcing that, or getting out there and educating folks and implementing these plans. I have had a lot of great input from a lot of the homeowners around here, and that's why a lot of us live here, so that we can use these areas without the abuse.
Absolutely.
You know, That's what I plan on doing.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, you guys have some great riding land out here. You might as
Oh,
well take advantage of it,
Yeah.
but respectfully, obviously. Very cool. All right, Mike. How are you going to address the growth of Storey County and the need for additional staffing when required? I know you were kind of talking about some of those volunteer programs and
So, yeah.
that would kind of go back to.
Yeah. First off, I think one of the biggest things is, again, going back to the volunteers, is strengthening our volunteer program. Starting with that, if I can get some reserves riding with the deputies, we can have some 2-man units, and that'll start right off the bat without a very large cost to the county. Obviously, with growth, and Storey County is growing tremendously,
Yes.
there's going to be a need to hire more deputies and more staff. Just like with any other department, everybody's growing, and we have this giant growth out there at the USA Parkway, and it's something that's really affecting the county. Property crimes and violent crimes are going up, drug crimes are going up, and it's something that we have to address. So obviously, filling vacant positions now is a big deal, and that's something we'll start with right away, is recruitment of deputies to fill vacant positions that are already budgeted for. In the future, if I'm able to ask for more money and get budgeting to bring more people on, of course I'm going to do that. I've talked to many of the folks here in the county, and it's exciting when people say they want to see that. They want their tax dollars to go towards good ideas and good programs. And I think the tax dollars would benefit the county by hiring deputies at a certain time when we need it.
Yeah.
But obviously, these are things that I would address right when I got into office, and something that I would deal with right away, because one of the things that I would never want to do, because it would put people in jeopardy here, is for us to have to rely on another agency or another jurisdiction to handle our issues. Having deputies readily available to respond in Storey County, from Storey County, is the key. If I have to wait for assistance from outside the county to do something and somebody's life is in jeopardy because of that, that would be a failure. And I don't want to have that failure. I want to make sure we can handle our own problems as quickly as possible.
Good. Good. Absolutely. That's a great answer. How do you plan on working with the district attorney's office when it comes to prosecuting the crimes?
Well, everybody knows the sheriff's office job is not to prosecute, obviously. Our job is to come in if there's a certain problem and we investigate, we come in and handle the problem. And my job is to properly investigate and thoroughly investigate, and make sure that I get the information to the district attorney's office so that the decision can be made that is there going to be a prosecution or not. Is there proper evidence recovery? Is there proper investigation? Did we follow all the rules during the investigation? And my job is to give the district attorney's office the proper investigation, the crime report as a package, so that they don't have to go back and reinvestigate things or collect more evidence or do things that I should have done in the beginning. So working with the district attorney's office, it's generally pretty simple. You do a good job, you present them the case, they take it and they make that decision. Some cases just are not going to be prosecuted, whereas others are definitely going to be prosecuted. And that's everything from minor traffic violations to a homicide, for instance. You take both ends of the spectrum, but making sure the deputies are educated, they have the proper tools and equipment, and that they can complete these investigations, and I can present this to the district attorney. I have, over the years of my job in Carson City, I've had great relationships with everything from our deputy DAs, district attorneys, defense and prosecution attorneys, the judges in Carson City. I've known all of them over the years. At some point or another, we've come into contact, and I've gotten a lot of support, and I've gotten a lot of education from them as well. It helps to discuss this with a defense attorney, for instance. They'll tell you right up the bat,
this is what you missed. This is
what
we
you
need.
missed,
This
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that these relationships are fantastic for our deputies out there that are doing these investigations, working with the defense, the prosecution, the judges, whatever it is, working with everybody and coming up with the best possible cases that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. All right, Mike. So finally, why should I cast my vote for you on June 14th, the primaries?
This is a question I'm asked quite a bit.
Yeah.
And my answer to this is simply this. I am the most qualified candidate for this position. I have 31 plus years of experience. I've worked in every facet there is of law enforcement, from corrections to detectives to writing traffic tickets, homicide investigations, major crime investigations. I've worked with just about every single agency in the state and others when it comes to criminal investigations. I've created some great relationships with a lot of the folks in northern Nevada that will benefit this county. And I want to bring all of this to the county. I'm a vested member of the county. You know, my wife owns a business here. We live here. We're never leaving. We have a plan to stay, you know, and people coming and going from the county's kind of been a big deal lately. And we're here. We love it. I've talked to many people, and I feel like I've got more neighbors than I've ever had in my life. You know, it's the best thing. And I believe that I'm the most qualified person for this job, and that's why I'm running. I want to contribute. I want to bring in my experience and contribute to the county.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you have all the experience and training and everything to support you as well as the people. So we wish you the best of luck in this.
Thanks.
And yeah, hopefully you come out on top. So
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mike.
for coming.
Appreciate it. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us in your house. All right, Storey County. So that's Mike Cullen, and go ahead and give him your vote on June 14th.